And I said, I'm not interested in changing. I'm committed. I am all in on figuring out my main focus, Erin, was my belief systems around money that I borrowed from broke parents and grandparents and, never questioned that. So I'm a CPA, I'm a financial advisor, and I'm broke. And it's not because I don't know what to do. It's because I'm not doing it. And my belief systems were the problem. But I just said, I'm going to be up early. I'm going to study, image, visualize. If you would have told me to stand on my head for an hour, it was going to change my life. I was going to do it, but I was all in, and it didn't happen overnight. But over time, we experienced a jaw-dropping transformation financially. But me personally, I leveled up.
Hi, I'm Erin Marcus, former corporate executive turned entrepreneur and founder and CEO of Conquer Your Business. Welcome to the Ready Yet podcast. We're excited to bring you more than 100 episodes of interviews and insights designed to help entrepreneurs get the financial and emotional freedom they need in order to build a business and a life they're proud of. All right. Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Ready Yet podcast. And I am excited for today's conversation with Chris Felton because, well, for several reasons. But one of the things that I find so interesting is Chris is very much immersed in the world that I come out of in financial services. And you've done something, not just that I don't see a lot of people in that space doing, but your topic, you wrote a book, but also the topic of the book is honestly, for someone who comes from that background, not something that I think you would normally find there, which to me is like, yes, right? Like that alone is, huge praise. So before we get into all of it, why don't you give everybody a little bit more formal introduction to who you are and what you do?
Yeah, Chris Felton, 24-year financial services entrepreneur. I've grown a business across the United States. We've helped 17,000 plus clients level up their financial literacy and get their money working for them. And wrote a book called Couples Money in 2011, and then just launched my brand new book, Think and Grow You, February 28th, 2023. And in the middle of getting the word out and launching that thing. So that's nice. Me, married, 21-year-old, 18-year-old, two boys, Caden and Carson. So there you have it.
Very cool. Very cool. So, okay. So 8 million questions. Where do we start? What was the impetus behind this book? I know like so many people have a story in them. So many people want to get their message out there, but most people don't ever act on that. Right.
Yeah.
So what was the impetus to drive this book?
Yeah, I mean, I wrote it because having been an entrepreneur for 24 years and having been a human for 51, Erin, I know what it's like to get stuck. I know what it's like to live in fear, doubt, and worry. And I also know what it feels like when you feel like you're doing everything possible, but like nothing freaking changes.
Right. I'm doing all the work. Why isn't it working?
You're like, why am I Bill Murray and why am I in Groundhog's Day right now? Yeah. Right. And having been a coach, and I've coached thousands of people, it's painful as a coach to watch people get so stuck.
Yes.
That they think that settling and giving up on their dream life is actually the only way. And I can empathize with that because I was so close to doing that very thing. But I didn't. And so
what was like, and the thing that, and maybe it's just that of who I worked with, maybe it's been that I haven't been in the industry for a while. Like you don't usually put what you just talked about and financial services together in one human. Right. So where does that come from? How do you make that switch?
I think the personal development stuff, and I'm very fortunate actually in my company where it was ingrained early on that you become what you think about. So and so my back was against the wall. I was $250,000 in credit card debt. I'm staring down divorce number 2. I just got done having like the fight of my life with my wife. She actually picked up her purse and threw it at me.
Oh,
3 times.
So she chased you around a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah. But she's got like horrible hand-eye coordination. So
Thank God.
I was never in danger. But like her stuff everywhere.
Right.
Like, I'm like, honey, I think I saw a Madonna CD like fly out
Yes.
of your purse. Anyway, but and she was pissed because I'm a CPA, I'm a financial advisor, and I'm totally broke. And my kids are little, they live on the other side of the country in Atlanta. I'm in Colorado. And I mean, it was horrific. And
Well, and so here's the thing though, that I imagine. Nobody sets out to create that situation.
sure.
And yet, how many people find themselves in it?
Mm-hmm.
I usually bring it back to a couple of things where I think if you don't live with intention, if you don't go about creating what you want, the default has a tendency to be negative. The thing that happens without you thinking about it is seldom the thing you want.
Yeah. I call it intention deficit disorder. And that was me. So definitely was stuck in, I mean, I didn't fully buy into the fact that my thinking created my world.
That took me a long time, it took me a long time when, just going back to this concept of money because of the world you come out of. A lot of times when I'm teaching my clients and even just my audience about beliefs, I'll say to them, if you want to know what you believe about money, it's really easy. Just look around you. Do you have any?
Yep.
And that's what you actually believe.
Yep.
But it's a whole different level of personal responsibility to say, okay, I've created that situation. It's hard. Most people would prefer to just blame other people.
Yeah. Well, that was so in the middle of the fight and it's just getting worse. I just said, well, if I'm such a, then why are we still married? And then she stopped immediately, silence. And she went upstairs for the rest of the night to figure that out. And
because it's a snarky response, but it's also a very good question.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely said heated, but basically, it was the turning point in my life because I sat there and all I could really see, Erin, was just dominoes falling. And it was my first marriage. And I realized right then and there, like, she never had a chance. I was going to blow that thing up no matter what. My kids hadn't seen me in months. Where's dad starting to turn into who's dad?
Yeah.
The financial stress that had been going on for a long time in our house was physically impacting my wife. I'm drinking too much. And I was like, dude, you got to change. And my way wasn't working too well. My way was, I call it in the book, I call it hopium. And it's hoping that the outside world's going to change while I fiercely insisted on remaining the same. And rearranging the furniture on the deck of the Titanic wasn't working.
Wasn't doing it. And I do say, like, I love to tell you that people get inspired by rainbows and puppies and unicorns, but it's just not true. Most people get inspired when they can't stand their own crap anymore.
Yeah, that was me. And it was actually me going, okay, you created the mess, 100% responsibility, and realizing what were the prices that other people were paying for my dysfunction.
So is that a moment in time, or is that like an aha moment followed by a massive discovery journey?
Well, I mean, it was in that moment that I realized that I had to take 100% responsibility for the mess. I had to change. And the price that other people were paying for me being the way I was and not willing to change, the price was too heavy. And so from that was the decision. And my wife and I got back together the next day. And to her immense credit, in her time of a lot of pain and stress, she focused 100% on what she loved about me. And which, if she wouldn't have done it, my tendency in relationships was bad spot, focus on the negative, go find the unicorn relationship that exists out there that you don't have to really have any work or,
Right.
total BS.
It just seems easy
Um,
compared to the real
yeah,
version.
yeah. And it didn't exist, but that was my whole deal. And then she said, we're not declaring divorce. We're not getting divorced. We're not declaring bankruptcy. We're not getting jobs. We're going to figure it out. And so what we did have access to, Erin, was wealthy mentors. And
Mhm.
she said, I'm going to interview them and I'm going to figure out what they do and how they think, which became our book, Couples Money. And then
Yes.
she was like, what are you going to do? And I said, I'm not interested in changing. I'm committed. And I am all in on figuring out my main focus, Erin, was my belief systems around money that I borrowed from broke parents and grandparents and, never questioned that. So I'm a CPA, I'm a financial advisor, and I'm broke. And it's not because I don't know what to do, it's because I'm not doing it. And my belief systems were the problem. But I just said, I'm going to be up early. I'm going to study, image, visualize. If you would have told me to stand on my head for an hour, it was going to change my life. I was going to do it, but I was all in. And it didn't happen overnight, but over time, we experienced a jaw-dropping transformation financially. But me personally, I leveled up in
Well,
almost
and
every area of
right.
my
And then
life.
that's the energy. And one of the things that, to me, those journeys aren't easy, but, and you're kind of saying the same thing, that the money's great, but the emotional freedom is absolutely invaluable. To
Yeah,
not walk through your life with the physical weight of things not working, things
yeah.
not feeling good, people not being happy is just horrible.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and it was, yeah, I mean, because everything we do, we're hoping to obtain a feeling.
Right.
So part of my, morning routine was, I was $250,000 in debt, right? So like we had to prove we could save money. And part of my imaging and visualization, and we set up, it seemed like Mount Everest at the time, it was to get 100,000 saved. Like that was the goal. Because I asked my wife, I'm like, what would make you feel good? She's like, 100,000 saved. And I said, how would that make you feel? And she said, relief. And I said, okay, before I image, visualize, do the work, I identified with that feeling. And so relief is a very, very powerful feeling. And that's what we wanted
And
worse than anything was feeling that financial relief. It's very powerful.
and that is different than what a lot of people will tell you about visualization. You don't usually hear people, I mean, they do talk about how will you feel once you get it, but I think you have to start with not just what you want, but what is the feeling you're looking to create. Because I also think if you don't really look deep into the feeling that you're trying to create, the what do you want could actually be wrong.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, you and I could probably spend an hour on that, but it wasn't, imaging wasn't working, visualization wasn't working because I call myself a recovered CPA, right? So it was all about the left brain and going through the checklist and, okay, did visualization, check. But
Yes.
it was, okay, what's the feeling? And it was relief. And then I played mental movies where I would feel that.
Well, and your
And
comment just now, I think, is where a lot of people fall short in their efforts. Not that they're, kudos for making the efforts, but if you go and start these processes and start these journeys, and you're given a list of tasks, what you view as tasks, and you check the box, if it's that ambivalent check, that doesn't work. Your come from energy is what drives the result.
yeah,
And, one of my coaches, she talks about this with social media. If you approach social media so you can check the box, all you have is a bunch of checked boxes, not
yeah,
any of the outcome of connecting with people.
yeah, absolutely. Totally spot on. And you're just a human doing,
Yeah.
not a human
So,
being.
love what you're learning here and interested in more? Check out conqueryourbusiness.com to get immediate access to all sorts of additional resources and stay updated on our upcoming training events. Launching a book, has it been different this time around?
Oh yeah. I mean, we didn't know what we were doing, 12
There's
years ago
beauty in that, by the way.
yeah.
Because not
Well,
knowing what you're doing also
yeah,
kind of removes a lot of expectations.
yeah, yeah. No, this has been a multi-month, more work, and are talking about just some of the challenges of it. But no, I
Well, but
love it.
I think that's an important point for people who are out there thinking, I'm going to write a book. Like, I'm a big fan. That is, to me, getting your content, your message out into the world, whatever format you choose, is important. It's important as an entrepreneur. It's important as a human to be witnessed, to be heard. But so many people think, I'm going to write it and then I'm going to be a millionaire. And they forget, like, a lot goes on in between those two
Yeah,
things.
yeah. No, it's. I've been following a very specific launch plan from Rory Vaden's group. If you ever heard of
Yeah.
Brand Builders Group, and he's had 15 New York Times bestsellers in the last 18 months. So kind of following that plan, but it's, after launch, there's a plan to continue
Yeah.
the sales. And what happens is people write the book and then they're like, okay, I'm done. And
Okay.
you're
Yeah.
like,
Right.
no,
Like, that's
dude,
the easy part.
no. You gotta do this stuff. But as crazy as it is, and I still got my other business, I'm having the time of my life, and it's controlled
What
chaos, right?
control chaos? What's been the biggest happy surprise about this process?
Um, I think I mean, and I got coached by a guy that said, hey, because I wanted to get the book out, and he said, you got to bleed it out, and we got to take our time, and we got to slow down, and we got to make sure, because it's going to be out there forever, dude.
Right.
Because you hear guys like, write a book in a week,
Right.
rah,
Yeah. No.
right? I'm like, dude, you're a freaking dumbass. Anyway, and the last one probably took 6 or 7 months, but like, he's like, we got to slow down on this. So it was 15 months, start to finish. But I think the biggest surprise, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but it is a different book. And the reviews have been, I mean, I've been humbled,
Nice.
emotional, like the impact it's making, because you know what it's like. You write something and you throw it out there and you're like, is this thing going to be worth anything?
Right.
Is it going to be any
You
good?
pour your heart and soul into something.
And it's a personal development book, and everyone's like, oh, it's just the same stuff regurgitated and all that. But the feedback, I had a counterpart in California, had a teammate. I got to call this guy after when we're done, in Louisiana. And he's like, dude, watch this. And he recorded a minute video of this guy. And he said, this is the most impactful book I've ever read in my life.
So what is that impact you're driving for? What do you want people to walk away knowing, feeling, thinking?
I mean, the problem that the book solves is stuck. And it's okay.
I have a question about that. This perfect person to ask. I have a question about that. Because one of the things I work with my clients on is messaging. And when we're working on messaging, we want to always talk in a way like, what does your client Google when they're up at night? That's the problem that you solve. Did you know you were quote unquote stuck, or that there was fear involved? Because I was always feeling people don't know they're stuck. They know they're unhappy, but they don't know why. Like, do you find that there is enough knowledge, rhetoric, and information out there that people at least identify that they're stuck? Or what is it that people usually are feeling? Or do they, am I totally wrong? And that they do feel, they use those words? Trapped, maybe?
No, I mean, one of the reviews on Amazon was, because I've been hitting it on social media hard and all that. I've been saying these things. And one of the reviews on Amazon was, I didn't know I was stuck until I started reading it.
Exactly.
And
I think that's very true.
And so the beauty of the book is it's written simple, and there's not a wasted word in the whole book. I was on another guy's podcast, and his book's got like 170,000 words. I'm like, dude, what do you talk about?
Right,
and he's like, what? He's like, what's
right.
your? I'm like, mine's 33,000
Right,
words, dude. Anyway.
Read it on an airplane. This is the goal.
But I think, I think the subtitles, how to get out of your own way and level up your own life. And I think that is the part that gets people intrigued,
Yes.
where they're like, what does that mean?
Mhm.
How do I get my own way?
I know I want, that sounds like something.
Yeah. So, and then as they're going through it and they scan the table of contents and they're like, how did Chris stop worrying? Like,
right, because
I want
you
to
made
know
a
that.
very drastic change.
Absolutely.
I mean, it was, it was
Transformational.
very, very drastic.
Yeah.
And one of the things about those types of changes, they usually require some kind of catalyst.
Yeah.
A catalyst is seldom a happy experience.
Yeah.
And so that journey, if he could do it, I could do it. Like, how do you shortcut people's learning curves?
Yeah. I mean, and that's why I wrote it, because I got intentional about growing, and I invested tens of thousands of dollars in personal growth and development. And I spent thousands of hours, and, I spent 15 months getting it out there. And my goal is, somebody can invest $22 in a book and,
gives you a really good place to start
and have it,
yeah,
and be a resource. Because what I had back in the day was I had, 15, $20, and like I'd get stuck and I wouldn't feel good or whatever. And I'd grab a book and I would shift and I talk about some of that stuff. So my goal for this is going to be an ongoing resource for people where they're like, God, feeling that way. Like I got that going on. Like, let me scan the table of contents and, okay, what did Chris say about that? But then what is unique about my book is the personal story behind everything I teach. And it's very much a self-deprecating, like, I was really stuck. I was a total dumbass. I realized it. I did this and I changed to get a different result in my life. And that gives people they're like, okay, if that dude can do it, I can do it.
and I also think there is a massive benefit that this story is coming from a demographic you don't usually hear this from, right? Like, the media is just completely filled with, I've got a year on you, a little bit more, white male 50, like that, they have no self-awareness, right? The media is filled with these kind of disparaging comments
Sure.
about, and I think the disservice of that is, one, the people who are in that demographic who need to hear the story most are either going to get their hackles raised or just kind of assume that's true. And I think there's just a benefit to hearing these stories from a wide variety of demographics, that this is human experience.
Yeah.
You kind of don't escape this unscathed, right? Like, this is all of us.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's not like this messaging's new. I mean, I've been on this since, 2009. Right. And so it's been 14 years of, I don't want to say perfecting it, because it's not about that, but it is something I've been communicating on stages for a long time. And it catches a very, very wide demographic of people, because they can all identify with stuckness. Once I educate them on what that is through my stories, then they're like, oh yeah, okay, that's me.
Yeah, I mean, that, right? That's how humans connect, is through stories.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. Awesome. All right. So aside from telling everybody how to get a hold of the book, what is the best way to stay in contact you, find out what you're doing, where you're going, all of the things, so that we can just absolutely support this? Because I'm personally very excited about this stuff.
Yeah. I mean, chrisfelton.me is my website. You can contact me there. You can, I send out a weekly email. It's called Thank God It's Monday. And
I love it.
Because I didn't like Mondays, and my perception was, I'm like, dude, you gotta shift here. So
100%.
So I kept telling myself Mondays are always awesome. And
I love that you said that. So one of the challenges I had for a very long time was being a good Midwesterner growing up in blue collar. We believe in hard work. The problem with believing in hard work is you think all work has to be hard. And so you make it hard in order to succeed. Not my favorite way to do things anymore. And it took me a long time where, instead of being, I'm so busy, I would look, and I still do this because it became a habit. I look at my calendar every day and just, oh my God, I'm so excited. Look at all the amazing things I get to do today.
Yeah, it's actually a chapter in my book. It's called Work Hard, but Don't Make Hard Work of It.
Yeah. Well,
That's-
yeah, like that was
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
easy is a perspective. Whether or not something is easy is if you choose to think it's easy, it has nothing to do with doing it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So chrisfelton.me is where people can find me, and my kind of main mode of messaging is the book, keynote talks, and then workshops. And I probably have 6 or 7 workshops
cool.
in the book. And the reason we set the book up the way we set it up, Erin, is whether somebody wants to, hire me for a keynote or a workshop, they can literally scan the table of contents and say, Chris, I want you to come in and cover these 6 to 10 topics, and it's ready to go.
It's almost like someone coached you through how to do this intentionally.
Somebody did, thank God.
Right, exactly.
That knew what they were doing, and thank
Awesome.
God.
I love it.
I'm
I love
coachable.
that idea. And yeah, absolutely. And the name of the book again?
Think and Grow You: How to Get Out of Your Own Way and Level Up Your Life.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Thank you so much for joining me here. Can't wait to see the next things that you're doing. And I absolutely hope everyone, we will put all the links in the show notes and make sure they go out and get this information.
Thanks, Erin. You're awesome. Thanks for having me.